To approve? Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. We have Sal Morbido on the line to discuss this, and we have our purchasing director, Adam Tulin, as well. Sal, do you want to just do a brief description of this?
Yes. Riverfield School was one of our buildings that had a roof restoration back 10 years ago, coming to the end of that restoration's lifespan. It's having some difficulties. We've done some emergency repairs to get it to go through this school year without much leakage or drama. It is definitely in need of its roof replacement, and we're happy that Silktown won this contract because they do excellent work and they keep their schedule and keep their promises to us.
Okay. So, go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. So Sal, this one was done with the one just below it, correct?
We bid out 2 roofs this year, Sherman, Roger Sherman, and Riverfield.
Did you get economies of scale? Is that why you're approving the vendor with the same vendor for both?
They were low bidder on both bids. Each bid was evaluated based on the bids received, and Silktown was low on both of them.
As I recall, this was already kind of presented. This is just the actual contracts themselves, right?
That is correct. We presented this for funding a few months ago.
Yeah.
And are going through the process. This is the last step to actually send them the contract, obviously approve the contract, and get them purchasing the materials for this summer.
Where did they come out versus the original budgets that you'd put together for this?
They're below budget.
Both are?
Both are below budget.
Okay. Madam First Selectwoman, I know the town attorney's not here. I don't believe he's available today. Do we know that he's reviewed all these contracts and that he is?
He sent us that email, Tom, about all the
Yeah, you
contracts.
sent us that email today, Tom.
Oh, that came today. I missed that today.
Last night.
Okay. What
Just
about
so
thank? Yeah, I'll
just
look at it.
For the record, it's he said he went through all the contracts, and so and answered your questions about had he vetted it, and were there any questions, and he didn't feel there were any outstanding issues.
Yeah, that must have came from Jennifer, and I didn't see it. What's
No, it was from Jim Baldwin to the Board of Selectmen last night.
Oh, got it. Okay. What about thank you. I'm having problems with that account, to be honest with you. What about purchasing authority? Did this go through all the appropriate processes with the purchasing authority?
Yes. You have a specific question for the purchasing director?
Well, did it go through the standard process that we go through? I just want to make sure, and were these kind of standard documents that were used?
Yeah, so with we had an award recommendation resolution that was signed off by the First Selectwoman's office and myself after the Special Projects Standing Building Committee approved recommending award to Silktown on February 27th. And then the architect, Silver Petroselli, has prepared AIA contract documents. So as far as I know, that should be all within normal procedure.
Yeah, my apologies. And nice to meet you, by the way. My question was more along the lines of when this went out for RFP, were the standard processes and policies in terms of identifying the vendors and vetting the vendors and all that, were those all followed?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got nothing further on this item.
Nancy, do you have anything?
I don't.
Okay. Is there any comment from the public on this matter? Seeing none, back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. The next item.
Thanks,
Can I
Sal.
get a motion to consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed contract with Silktown Roofing to provide all labor, equipment, and all necessary to replace the roof at Sherman. Detailed the bid number identified in the agenda for the total amount not to exceed $1,719,000 with the additional authority to execute change orders to said contract and the amount not to exceed $171,900 for a combined grand total not to exceed $18909.
So
Motion to
moved.
approve?
So
I'll
moved.
second. And I'll second.
Thank you. Again, we have Sal and Adam available. As Attorney Baldwin indicated, he did review the contract, and Adam has made sure all necessary requirements have been met with the purchasing authority. Is there any additional questions?
No, not for me.
Not
This
for
is
me.
the same as the last one.
Is there any comment from the public? Back to the board. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 5.
You.
Thank you.
Have a good
Can I
evening.
get a motion? Can I get a motion to hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed contract with Star Construction Corporation to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary to perform ADA ramp and sidewalk reconfigurations as detailed in the bid number outlined in the agenda in the amount not to exceed $387.48 with additional authority to execute change orders to said contract in the amount not to exceed $38,705 for a combined grand total not to exceed $425,753.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Thank you. We have Bill Hurley here. Obviously these are contracts. These are items we've already approved regarding the funding. These are just the contracts, and we have our purchasing authority. I'll open up to the board.
Bill, where does this come in compared to the original budget that was approved for this?
It did come in higher. We did get a steep grant. We applied for it in 2019 pre-COVID, so the bid did come in higher, but we do have enough money in the funds. We have a steep grant for approximately $126,000. We have some earmarked for the town share for the original application of $34,000. We plan on getting money from CBDG, the DPW operating budget, and the downtown fund. The bids were a little bit higher than what we thought, but we do have it covered.
How much were the bids higher than we thought? And the CDBG is not a guaranteed, correct?
I'm going to have to I'll refer to Mark.
For the record, Mark Barnhart, Community Economic Development. We do have funds allocated in our Community Development Block Grant annual plan this year for sidewalks and street improvements, so this would be consistent with that annual plan that's already been approved by the board.
So those funds are already available, Mark?
They are already available, yes, sir.
How much in total was this over the estimate that was approved for it?
The original amount was $150,000 to $200,000. Again, those were pre-COVID prices. So we were expecting it to come around $300,000 to $350,000. It originally came in at $480,000. We've worked with the apparent low bidder from the five position, 5 or 6, because one of them disqualified. 5 low or submitted bidders, and we have negotiated a little bit of a reduced scope, not much. There was one error in one of the bid items. The units was as a maximum, and then when we found out with the state and through our field investigation, we were able to reduce that amount. And so what it ends up being is that it's approximately $50,000 more, but as I said before, we do have that covered.
Wait a minute. I'm confused. You had originally said that this was approved for 150,000. Is that right?
150 to 200,000, correct. Back in 2019 or 2020, before COVID, we applied for the STEEP grant. It became official in 2021, and we accepted the grant through the process. It probably was a virtual meeting, sometime in 21.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to figure out is, you're saying it's 50 grand off. It's actually well over 200 grand off.
From the very beginning, yes. That's where DPW is gonna chip in, and the downtown fund, which was only earmarked for the downtown center improvements.
I understand it, but what I don't understand is, how did it increase over 100%?
Well, again, the prices that have come in, as I said, there were 5 bidders on this, and since pre-COVID, and this happens on a couple of the grants that have kind of lagged behind, the prices have gone up between 30 and 50%.
But this is over 100%.
I don't know what to tell you, Tom. We came in, we put the bid out. There were 5 bids, and that's what we got on it.
But how did you develop the original estimates?
If you don't mind, Tom, I do have to state, though, is again, when we apply for these grants, we never know what kind of permitting and what the state's going to require. And so by the time we got the DOT permit and some of the requirements, that ups the price as well. And
So I'm just going to jump in for a minute.
Sure.
So obviously, this is an ADA ramp and sidewalk configurations, as Bill outlined pretty clearly. This is pre-COVID. As we all know, inflation is at an all-time high. Costs are through the roof through everything. It goes up. Some items just go up. It's just part of the process. You have 5 bidders, and they're all up. So, I mean, there's not much he can do about it. There's not much anyone can do about it. The bottom line is that the prices are up, and that's the cost.
If it helps, Tom, along the post road, it's almost like, imagine a T, the sidewalk that we're doing. It goes from Sherman Green, the bus station there, transit stop, to right at the beginning of the brick wall. And then it goes down Old Post Road on the east side of Old Post Road. We had figured approximately $40,000 for that. It came in at $55,000. Very reasonable. It was the state, Route 1, and some of those items just were a lot more expensive. Matter of fact, the state.
But Bill, you're just proving my point. You went from 40 to 50. You didn't go from 40 to 85. In this instance, we went from.
But Old Post Road is a town road, so we have a lot more control over that, and the prices, because you don't have to go for state bonding, you don't have to go for state insurance. I mean, the contractor had to put up over $1 million, I think it was $1 million bond for this. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was the other project. Sorry.
You got so many.
They're going to have to put up a $300,000 bond, I'm sure, for this. The maintenance and protection of traffic, just for flagger control and police control, is $60,000. I'll be honest with you, we figured about 20 or 25. We didn't figure 60. I mean, just right off the bat, 60,000, just on maintenance and protection of traffic. So
who gave you that, Bill? Who do we pay for that?
Excuse me?
Who gets paid for that?
That would either be the Fairfield Police Department, it could be possibly state police, or it could be flaggers if they use flaggers. What they have to do is they have to submit a plan, a maintenance and protection, a traffic plan that gets submitted to the LTA, the Fairfield Police, Department and Commission, and it has to also go to the State of Connecticut DOT, Department of Transportation. And as you've learned, even with the Stratfield Road and even the Southport one coming in, on these, whenever we're on the state highways, the prices just go up a lot more than they used to.
Did the state change their requirements?
Yeah, I won't say they change their requirements, but in every single permit, they always can add whatever they feel like. And I'll give you an example on the project in Southport. We're moving the signal head about 5 feet, and they're making us do a structural span pole analysis, which is going to cost, $30,000. Just for moving a traffic light head 5 feet over.
Mm-hmm.
But, we without the state approval and without the encroachment permit, we don't have the project. Believe me, I share your frustration on this. What I can say is that this represents, I'm going to say, a slightly higher, because again, we took a more conservative approach with the quantities. I can tell you that the apparent low bidder, Star Construction, is a very reputable company. They live right here in Fairfield, their business in Stratford, and they've done 4 other projects in town: Post Road, Brentwood Chambers, Valley Road, and Kings Highway projects. And I could say at least that all of those had, from their portions, been at or below budget. It's a good company, and we've had excellent reputation, working relationship
Bill,
with.
well, there's 2 things here, right? The town bodies, when we approve this to spend up to $150,000, right?
I would have to look at that. When we applied for the grant, that would be correct.
So now, how do we get to double the cost of this and not go back through the Board of Finance?
It's coming out of operating budgets. It's not coming out of a fund balance not for bonding.
It's coming out of using the grants, though, no? That
Yeah,
wasn't
that we have
originally.
the approval. Yeah, the grant they did not increase. To just to even put it in perspective, the grants that were released that we just got last year, I think were $500,000. So they went from 126 was the maximum in 2019, and the ones for 2022 were $500,000 as the max award. They realized that you can't do as much as you used to.
I don't have any more questions. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sure.
Ma'am,
I'm
did
fine.
you have anything? Okay.
No, thank you.
Is there any comments from the public? Back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to vote opposed on this one.
Okay.
Not because I don't like the project. I do like the project. I don't like the financing of this. I don't quite understand what happened here. That's all. I agree
Okay.
it needs to be done, but to have an over 100% escalation, there's something doesn't pass my smell test on that one, just based on the conversation. That's all.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Sure.
Item
Thank
number
you,
6.
Bill.
Sure. You're welcome.
Can I get a motion to hear and consider and reauthorize the pilot operating agreement between the town of Fairfield and Bird Rides Incorporated to operate a stand-up electric scooter sharing system with the town of Fairfield at no cost to the town of Fairfield for an additional year starting April 21, 2023? Motion to approve?
You able to share that?
I'll put it before us.
And I'll second it, but definitely would love a discussion.
Okay, as with any item, we have to have a motion and second before we can discuss it. Mark has this, PowerPoint we're gonna try to use.
Try to share some slides, but, that may
Can
not.
they see?
Nope,
Am I sharing it now?
not sharing it.
Okay, hold on.
But that's the wrong
I don't
one.
have the right thing.
That's not the right one.
That's the one you told me to pull down.
Well, it's blank, so. I think I'll share some information.
Okay.
And then we can talk about it.
Thank you, Mark.
So, I think everyone's familiar with Bird. It's a micro-mobility provider, that specializes in shared electric vehicles, including scooters. What sets them apart a little bit is that they, are able to focus on smaller fleets, to serve smaller communities. They use a dockless model, which relies upon a local fleet manager, Nick Sear, who is the fleet manager for Bird. The scooters are GPS enabled, so they work within a defined operating area. And also, this allows some control in terms of the operating hours and speeds and things of that nature. The overall intent of the program was to evaluate it for a year.
You know what I'm wondering, well, we don't have any microphones in here.
Can you hear me all right?
The phone, the speaker.
Maybe you should.
You're okay. You're okay. It's not great, but I can hear you.
Because I'm just realizing we don't have any microphones.
No, there isn't a microphone, so.
So, yeah, come on over here, sorry.
I think you're at the Board of Ed.
No, because we had to push till
All right,
1
so
o'clock in the morning last night.
The overall intent of the program was to evaluate it for a year, to provide, and the idea behind the scooters is obviously to give an alternative to folks that might otherwise use a car for these short trips. So the town entered into a pilot agreement with Bird last April. The current agreement provides for a renewal as of the end of the term for another year, unless either party provides notice of the intent to end it within 30 days of the term. So the program was launched in May of 2022. It ran through early December, when operations were suspended due to weather conditions. During that approximately 6-month time span, we had over 19,000 rides, which traveled over 31,000 miles. It proved to be popular, more popular than perhaps even I anticipated. The average ride distance was about 1.5 miles, and duration was about 12.5 minutes. And we saw 4,300 unique riders during that period. The operating zone that we had agreed to was generally south of I-95 from the town line with Westport, Bridgeport, but it did include a little salient to include sections of Round Hill, North Benson, and Barlow roads to encompass, or the fringe of Fairfield U, the Fairfield University campus. And as I mentioned, the operating hours were restricted so that they were in use from 5 a.m. to 12 midnight. The ridership was relatively strong throughout the 6-month period, including the fall. In fact, the 5 highest demand days all took place after Labor Day, with the highest ride total on a single day that Saturday after Labor Day, where we saw 303 rides. The average distance and average duration of the ride, I'll share these slides after the fact with the board, but after the novelty factor kind of wore off in the first month or so, we saw a steady decline and then a stabilization to about that 1.5 mile per ride, 12 to 13 minute ride duration. So again, that was more or less in conformance with what you would expect to find with a service, in that it was providing the first and last mile connections as was intended. I think in terms of general observations, in my note, I shared some thoughts. Generally the feedback was positive. We did have a good relationship with the local fleet manager. He was very responsive to our issues, but we did have complaints throughout the entire service period.
Those complaints, were more frequent at the outset, and those complaints typically ranged from issues involving improperly parked scooters, scooters on private property, impeding the public sidewalk, or, not positioned properly. Again, that was something that the local fleet manager addressed pretty quickly when called to their attention. We also had a lot of issues or complaints relative to the riding behavior and for, some individuals that were underage. And probably those two are related, that those individuals that were engaged in unsafe or discourteous riding tended to be younger folks, including those that are underage. Bird did, at our request, retard the speed, minimize the speed downtown to a lower speed limit. They are now currently working with a provider to institute facial recognition technology to try to get at the root of those folks that are kind of doing a workaround for the fact that they have to provide a driver's license and credit card, but obviously, that doesn't stamp out folks that are under the age of 18 from riding completely, so the facial technology would hopefully address that issue. And as I mentioned in my report, and you have a report from the police chief as well in your packet, there were a couple of incidents involving birds where there was minor property damage, no injuries. In one case, I had a report from a business that had some damage to a door. We were able to work with Bird to track down the individual responsible, and they were barred from the service. By that point, the repair had been made to the door, so it was relatively minor. And there wasn't a police report on that one. But in the second instance, there was a police report and investigation as a scooter operator had hit a parked car, and then left the scene. So that did not work out as well as we would have liked. And the police chief is here if you have questions with respect to that one. And I also have, I'm available to answer questions you have. But my main point is, we have this pilot agreement, which is up for renewal. And I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to share with you the results of the first year, answer questions, and we just didn't want the program to automatically remove without having a further conversation about it. So happy to take questions at this time.
So I'll just open it up. I will just say that, when we first entered into this pilot, Mark came before our board and we approved the pilot program. Obviously, it was something new for our town that we hadn't had before. And I have to say, in the beginning, there was a lot of email communication from our community about them, lots of questions, and I'll say that the company was very responsive to answering those questions when we had them for residents. There was, I'll say, as Mark illustrated in the beginning, we got a lot of emails. People working, and they still do. We don't get really anything. I haven't gotten in some time. It was in the beginning, but people were readily confusing these scooters with scooters that are bought individually by residents. A lot of people have these scooters, and you don't really pay attention to it until you're getting a ton of emails, and then you ride around town and you notice there's kids on home-bought scooters from their families. And a lot of our residents were confusing it and emailing saying there's young kids riding on these bird scooters. You're not supposed to be on those bird scooters. And in fact, those weren't bird scooters. Those were private. So I know there was some confusion there, and we did respond to residents explaining the difference and the qualifications of these scooters regarding the ID, the debit card, and alike of things like that. And so I just wanted to clarify that. And Mark's highlighted pretty much most of it. I think it's been an interesting, I would say it's been an interesting pilot program. A lot of our residents do like them. Believe it or not, we have a lot of seniors who really enjoy them and have shared their enjoyment getting on them together and tooling around the town. They like the fact that they're good for the environment. Yeah, they don't have to worry about parking. Using them in the downtown area sometimes when parking is a little harder. And the Fairfield U kids, you'll notice when you're coming down North Benson, a lot of the kids do use them instead of cars to come downtown to access our businesses and do what they need to do. So I just wanted to highlight a few of those things. The chief is here to answer any questions. We did get some emails. You remember the board got some emails this morning saying, can we require helmets? Obviously, no, we don't require helmets for bikes. There's no law that requires helmets for private scooters that people own. And then one of the questions we got to the board was, could we restrict the areas in which they are used? Specifically, the board got 2 emails this afternoon regarding Fairfield Beach Road and the peninsula and the tightness of that street because it's narrow. And I don't know that we could do that. I mean, we can't restrict people walking on Fairfield Beach Road. We can't restrict people using their private scooters or their bicycles or pushing carriages or what have you. So I'm not sure that that's something the town could enforce for one specific motorized item in town. So I just wanted to open those few things up just for thoughts. And again, the chief is here to, and we also have the, how do you identify?
He's a local fleet manager.
Local fleet manager is also available to answer any questions, and I'll open it up.
Nancy.
Go ahead, Nancy, sorry.
Yeah, a couple questions, and thank you for clarifying, because I think it is important to point out that some of the misuse is private scooters versus the bird ones. Can you I would love to have a little bit more of a sense about if there's data from any accidents reported, driving while intoxicated reports on a town-owned. Because I have seen, and it's hard for me to know if they're town-owned or personal-owned, just anecdotally, some crazy driving and reckless driving. But again, I'm for them because of the environment, what it does for the environment and the ease and all of that. I just was curious if there's any data in terms of accidents versus, town-owned versus the personal, any reported. Because obviously
Chief,
it just takes one.
I have the chief here, yeah. So I just want to clarify, though, they're not town-owned.
Well,
it's just a company.
town,
Yeah.
right, town leased.
Okay, chief.
So Bob Calamaris, Chief of Police. We do not have, we have very few accidents related to the bird scooters in particular. We have most of which are very minor, if any. We have several from private scooters that get reported on a regular basis. We did have one rear end accident, which the individual left the scene. I illustrated that in my letter to the the Director of Community and Economic Development. So specifically to answer your question, the birds, we're not getting a lot of accidents with the birds.
And in your opinion, are they value add to the community in the sense of taking kids out of cars or walking? Is like, what do you see as a value add for the town to be doing this?
I see some benefits and drawbacks. Benefits are, people have a means of transportation. Obviously, the ridership is a good portion of Fairfield University, which takes them out of cars, which I think is a good thing, especially given the population of the school. I'm going to be honest, I'm indifferent to it. I think, is there some value? Of course there is. Are there some drawbacks? There are. I'm like right down the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I would ask the same question of you, Mark, in terms of value add, other than this sort of environmental impact and the ease of transportation. What do you see as the biggest plus for the
Yeah.
town.
That's what I see, which is you have an alternative to getting in a car. I see it as a tool, just like a bike or any other tool. You can use a bike improperly, you can drive a car in an unsafe manner. So any mechanism by which we help, get from point A to point B can be used in an unsafe and improper manner. So I don't see these as materially different than any other tool or device. I don't think they're inherently unsafe, but they do, and they've proven popular with a certain element group. I think predominantly young people, but there are seniors and others. I've seen people that are using it for commuting purposes. So again, I think that's probably the benefit that I see the most, which is it just provides another mechanism by which people can get from point A to point B without getting in a car and having to do that. So that's the main benefit.
I guess I would say I'm supportive, given the data, and then hearing from you, Chief, and also the distinction between, the private versus the birds. I guess I would say, as I do whenever I see someone riding a bike, I would encourage helmet use. That's me. But I have no further questions. I'm supportive. I started out sort of on the fence, but you clarified a few things, so I'm supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, thank you. I happen to agree with Nancy. I was indifferent to this. I was more concerned on the safety issues. I see the environmental impact. I really see the opportunity to have the schools use it and take cars off the road. I was really interested in hearing from the police chief and hearing if this was being a thorn in their side or if they found it more inherently dangerous. And Chief, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm not hear you saying that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. So given that, I mean, the benefits, the only thing I could think of not voting for this would be safety issues. Otherwise, I'm fine with it. So I'm good. And I thank you for the discussion.
Thank you. So, I agree. I think I was feeling the same way you both were. In the beginning, it was causing a lot of havoc in my office because people were calling and emailing. But we worked through those issues, and I think they do offer an opportunity to do something different than driving a car. And which I like too. I think it's an opportunity not to be clogging the roads, and they really are good for the environment. And so anyway, and there's scooters all over town anyway. So these you don't have to actually buy. I'm going to open it up to the public if there's anyone who would like to speak on this item. Nick? Yeah, you want to come here? We don't have a microphone. I don't know what happened here.
Just briefly, so,
Identify yourself.
yes, Nick Mirabili, Bold Move Scooters. I'm the fleet manager associated with Bird, and happy to answer any questions while I'm here and just make a couple comments. I think it was a wonderful success. I won't repeat the stats that Mark had stated. You'll see in the PowerPoint, but it was a tremendous success, and we did see ridership everywhere from 18 up to 65 years of age plus. So I thought that was a huge success. I think in some of the busier times of the year that Fairfield U students were more visible, but we definitely saw high usage in many weeks when Fairfield U was not in session, and we really didn't have the amount of college students in this town that we do when they are in session. So it really supported the fact that citizens were using this for many reasons. I think they were focused on seeing our town. I think a lot of people came to me and said that, for the first time they went down streets they hadn't gone down before, and they really got a sense of the environment when they're on the scooter, like you do when you're on a bicycle or even when you're on a motorcycle. It's a different feeling than when you're in a vehicle. I don't think that the environmental impact of it should be diminished. I think it's a huge benefit to the town to see our citizens on these scooters. It also brought equity to folks that can't afford cars or don't have cars. A lot of the support people in this town that told me that they would generally walk or take a bus, were using these to get to and from work, and many people were using them on a regular basis. So the average usage was 4 or 5 times, but we had people that used them, dozens and dozens and dozens of times for every person that maybe just tried it and used it once or twice. To address quickly some of the safety concerns, I did get some feedback that folks said, they heard of issues in other parts of the country where people were having accidents with scooters. So the one thing I just want to mention is the word scooter is used also as a synonym for mopeds or smaller vehicles that are 50 cc's or less. I'm not sure even moped is the proper terminology now because mopeds have pedals. But scooters are motorized vehicles 50 cc's or less that are not class motorcycles. There was some accidents with them, but it was not the scooter that we refer to here that Bird has in market. And when it comes to underage riding, we addressed that immediately. When the program first launched, it was an option, and inadvertently we set it up where it was just an honor system, are you 18, and people were able to check yes. We noticed immediately that was an issue, and within days switched it where a driver's license was required to show proof of age. And to step it up this year, we are doing the facial recognition. So rather than just taking a picture of your driver's license, you have to take a picture of your driver's license and take a picture of yourself, and it matches that driver's license to the rider to minimize the abuse that may come from people sharing the scooter or just borrowing an ID like they would if they were going to use an ID to get into a bar. And when it comes to the parking issue, we did get a couple complaints about that, and I heard it from a few people at this table, and I welcome that. So I gave people my name, my cell number, and said if there's any issues that you see or that you hear from citizens, call me immediately. I was on the phone with my team, and they were out there moving these scooters. And one way we're going to improve that in 2023 is I purchased a mini truck, Japanese mini truck, that we'll use to pick up and transport these scooters rather than the box truck that we had used in 2022. That mini truck is much smaller, it's more narrow, it's easier to drive, it's safer on the streets, it's safer for my drivers, it's also safer for traffic, just because you don't have this box truck, which can often block people's views, whether it's a pedestrian or another vehicle. So the pickup and drop off of the scooters that we're going to do will be in a safer manner and will be a lot quicker. We were sweeping almost 2 times a day every day to make sure these are in the proper place.
And I want to just say that they were very responsive because we were getting in the beginning a lot of complaints about young kids, and I called Nick right up and said, you better fix this thing. And they fixed it. And so, because I was going to make him come in the office and answer the phone. And they were responsive. And then we got a lot of complaints in the beginning saying, people are leaving them everywhere. And I have to say, Bird did get into a really good rhythm where if, people left it there, they were picked up immediately and then put, in their rows wherever I guess the usage was the most popular. So I think everybody sort of learned lessons over the past year. And I just want to remind the board that if this is only for 1 year, this is an additional year, this item. And then so it wouldn't be, right, it's just for additional year.
And I just want to clarify to Nancy's point earlier, in terms of the relationship with Bird, we're providing a license by which Bird can operate a service in town and utilize the public right of way. That's the limit of our relationship. We're providing a limited license to do so within a smaller footprint of the town. And I do agree that we're looking at a 1-year extension that will give us additional data to evaluate the service, and perhaps during that time we would look at a different regulatory scheme in the event that there are other providers besides Bird that was interested in doing something like this, meant to be exclusive long term.
What's our liability that way? If there, God forbid, there is some accident, what happens?
Well, we've reviewed the liability provisions and hold harmless provisions, not just with the town attorney, but our insurance provider, Byrd provides a full indemnification and certificate of insurance naming the town as additional insured in accordance with our coverage limits and requirements. But that doesn't necessarily preclude somebody from suing the town at some point. But again, we're trying to limit, we're not actually in the business of providing the service ourselves. It's really just giving a private operator the ability to do so and utilize the public right of way in order to park the birds.
Okay, thanks. I don't have anything else.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Is
you.
there any additional members of the public who would like to comment on this item? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Nick. Thank you, Chief. Mark, you're done.
I think I am.
Look at you.
Mark, don't forget
Your thing.
I'm sorry, because the first one must have been the one that was a good one,
It's all right.
I'll send it out.
yeah.
Had lots of pretty pictures.
Did you? Aw, see, he didn't get to show off his slide deck. Sorry, Mark. Okay, our next item, can I get a motion to hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a pros contract with Hinging Tennis LLC to install new pickleball courts at Tungus Hill Park. Detailed in bid number located in the agenda. Total fee not to exceed $187,765. Tungus Hill pickleball courts. This item, if you recall, we actually recently approved. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have Anthony and Adam here. Is there any questions from the board on this particular contract?
I'm assuming this went through the regular bid process. I just want to confirm that.
Yes.
Okay, and Anthony, where'd this come in as compared to the budget we had approved for this?
So this is phase one. This is just replacing the 4 current courts that are there. So the total number that was approved was 575,000. We had estimated about 225, so this is slightly under.
Okay, that's good. Okay, have we used this vendor before?
We have. They won the Gould Manor contract for the tennis court and pickleball court there 2 years ago.
And we're happy with the performance of those courts and the like. I'm just stating the obvious, but that's true.
Yes, we are.
Okay, and did we get I see that they're on the next one too for the tennis courts there. Again, did we get economies of scale with them winning both bids?
So the next one they didn't win. Another company won, but we did bid all 3 for the exact reason you just stated. We bid all. Yep.
Oh, you've got 3 here. 1 won 2, the next 2, and this one won the separate one, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Do you know why that happened by any chance? That is a bit odd.
Well, it was just the way the bids came in, and we interviewed both companies. We've done work with both companies. Both companies are fantastic, and just went with the low bid on each project.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I've got nothing further on this item.
Nancy?
Nope, good.
I have to say, I was at Lower Tungus Hill Park today talking about the Rooster River project, flood mitigation. And this morning, when it was cold, you could hear the pickleballers playing pickleball. They are a dedicated bunch, I'll have to say that. All right. Is there any comments from anyone a member of the public, either remotely? There's nobody here, so any remotely? Okay, back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Next item, Anthony's got a few here. To hear and consider and authorize purchasing authority to enter into a proposed contract with Classic Turf Company LLC to install new tennis courts at Dwight Elementary School as detailed in the bid number outlined in the agenda for a total fee not to exceed $553,950. And it's got the account number in the agenda, post-tension tennis Dwight and account number, fees and professional services. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
you have any questions about this, contract?
So this is the one that they got both, right, Anthony? And there was certainly supposed to be some economies of scale in this.
That's correct.
And again, this went through the normal bid process, and that's why 111 and 112. Is that fair to say?
It is.
And for this one, can you just compare it to budget for me?
It's $3,950 over budget.
How you paying for it?
We're taking the $3,950 out of fees and professional services from our parks budget.
From your, is that from the fund line or whatever?
Nope, it's from fees and professional services in the parks budget.
Oh, got it. Okay, understood. I was thinking the revenue. Got it. Understand. Okay, thank you. I'm good.
Nothing for me.
And I don't see anybody, signed on from the public, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 9, to hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a contract with Classic Turf Company for Fairfield Woods Middle School, detailed bid number in the agenda for a total fee not to exceed $522,000, and then the account number is included in the agenda, and this is the post-tension tennis courts at Fairfield Woods Middle School. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
And is there any questions on this contract?
I have two, if I could. The
Sure.
first one is, where is this as compared to budget, Anthony? The 522?
Exactly on budget.
Okay, that's interesting. And the second thing is, this is the new kind of post-tension tennis courts, right? That are supposed to last longer and the like and have less wear and tear. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, 20-year guarantee on cracking and 10 years on all the lines.
Right. I'm good with this one.
Nancy, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Next item, can I get a motion to hear and consider and authorize the purchasing authority to enter into a proposed lease with Fairfield Indoor Tennis to provide all labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary for the operation of a summer tennis program at South Pine Creek Park, 210 Old Dam Road, Fairfield, Connecticut. This is a one-year lease with 2 optional one-year extensions for a total term not to exceed 3 summer lease periods for $33,480 for the 2023 summer lease period, with subsequent summer lease periods under the agreement to be adjusted annually based on the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index. Motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Is there any questions on this proposed lease?
Nance, do you have anything?
No.
My question would be, what was the process by which we decided this is the current vendor, is it not, Anthony?
It is. They have a 20-year lease. They have a 20-year lease currently in place for the months of September through May. And what used to happen is before they got that 20-year lease and rebuilt and spent the money to rebuild the building down there, they used to clear out in May. We would then move in, hire seasonal staff to run summer tennis, and then we would move out Labor Day weekend and they would move back in. When they got the long-term lease, it was negotiated with them, for a 2-year lease each time, that they would stay in the summer. So they would never basically have to move out during the summer because it was just such a hassle for everybody involved.
So this was just a way for the town to clear an additional $33K as opposed to staff up, run it ourselves, take the earnings risk and deal with the management of it. Is that kind of the way I should look at this?
Absolutely.
And what did we used to make when we ran it ourselves versus the 33? I'm just trying to figure out the economics here.
It would have been far less than that. I'd have to get you those numbers, Tom. This is way before my time.
Okay.
Again, That building was built in 2014, so we stopped that arrangement prior to that during construction. So probably even 2012 or so is probably when that stopped. But I know when this lease used to be $18,000, $19,000, and it basically went up $1,000 every year after that. And we held steady the last couple of years during COVID for them because we started to get much higher in the market. They've got facilities in other places, in Trumbull and in Darien, where they're paying a lot less than they're paying for the summer here.
Understand. Okay, I'm good.
No questions.
Oh, okay. All right, and I don't see anyone on the WebEx from the public, so I'll bring it back to the board. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
And unfortunately, I have to jump for work, so I
Okay, no
not able
problem.
to participate.
Okay.
Thanks, Nance.
Okay, thanks,
Aye.
Nancy.
Thank you, guys.
See you later.
Our next item is, can I get a motion to hear and consider and act upon the amendments to the following cell tower lease with Dish Wireless LLC, 100
So
Reef
moved.
Road cell tower lease?
So moved.
Second. And Jared's on the line there if you have any questions on the lease.
Jared, you want to step through what the difference here or what's going on here, if you don't mind, just for the record?
Yes, absolutely. So what this is a couple weeks ago, maybe a little longer ago, we had Dish moving on to the cell
Yep.
tower at Congress Street that you all approved. You approved that agreement. This one is a contract between Dish and the town to move on to the cell tower at Reef Road where the police station is.
And-
In addition to the lease, Dish has also agreed to pay for some upgrades, some safety upgrades, being the climbing pegs that are on the cell tower, and also repair on the safety cable. So it's the safety system that goes along with it, which was bought by another carrier when they were looking to make some additions to the tower. And so Dish has agreed to pay for those repairs.
And is this just basically it covers, it helps them improve their coverage of the town working with the other tower? Is that right, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, they cover different areas, and so, you know, they have different ranges on each of the towers, and so Dish is, you know, clearly moving into this area of the country, and so Fairfield being, you know, along 15, along 95, there's a lot of traffic and a lot of coverage, and so they're pretty valuable locations.
And the economics of this, how are we, just remind me, how are we aware that it's kind of market rate or what we can get for this, if you don't mind?
Yeah, we're through our consultant that we brought on. They have a massive database of all the different agreements, not just Fairfield, but all different agreements throughout the country with all different carriers. They negotiate with the carrier. Typically the carriers come in and offer, you know, $250 a month or something like that to add or to come onto a tower. And you know, in this case, this is going to bring in significantly more than that, and more than Sprint, who was on there before Dish. So
Got it.
yeah.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm all set on this one.
You're welcome.
Sorry. Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second, and I don't see anyone on the line for public comment. So back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries
Thanks,
unanimously.
Jared.
Thank you. Thanks, Jer. Can I get a motion to consider and act upon the tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $48,534.72?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion on this item?
None from me on this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, look at us. 1 hour.
There you go.
Woo-hoo. Okay. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Take
Good
care,
night,
Tom.
everybody. Have a
All
good
right,
one.
have a good night.
We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Okay.